Saquon Barkley.
Averaged 22 a game. He was just an absolute monster this year for your team. My guy is probably the biggest surprise of the year. I'm going Brian Thomas Jr. He probably won you guys a championship. Maybe one of the biggest busts was Marvin Harrison Jr. with 180 points. Who would you pick here instead?
Old faithful, Mr. 1,000 yards, Mike Evans.
I'm going Chuba Hubbard, who's another surprise. He might not got drafted in your league. What's up, everyone? Welcome back to Catching a Vibe. I'm your host, Drew. I got Mike back on, and today's video, we're going to do a redraft of the 2024 fantasy football draft. Mike, how are you feeling about this?
I'm feeling good. I'm really interested to do this. Going into the beginning of this year, the preseason, most of everybody went wide receiver heavy over the running backs. And towards most of this season, I felt that the running backs were the reason why your roster was winning games.
Yeah.
They put up more points, it seemed.
So we're going to do a full 3-round draft, 10 picks per round. Yeah, I'm excited for this. All right, the first overall pick, original, was CMC. We can all say he was a bust this year for your fantasy teams. He scored a whopping 48 points for you this year. And who do you think should be the first overall pick? I think it's pretty easy.
Yeah, going back, CMC was the obvious choice, I felt. You didn't really know the extent of his injury. They kind of kept that hidden from you. Yeah. No one would have guessed that he was going to miss, 10 games of this season before he came back on your roster. He most years when healthy puts up big numbers for you. But yeah, that's as far as your question on who number one is, I'm really torn on that. You're going to go receiver, you're going to go running backs. Jamar Chase is a great pick, or Saquon Barkley. He maybe smashed the rushing record this year. So he's had great season this year. So it's interesting to see.
Yeah, I'm going Jamar Chase. He scored 377 points, the most of any player, skilled player, except quarterbacks. He averaged 23 a game. He's going for the Triple Crown. He had games of 41, 45, 51. He probably single-handedly won you those games this year. Such a stud. I think he's the right number one pick.
Yeah, coming into the season, he had that contract issue going on. That still isn't settled. So, how's that going to be coming into this year is a question there. But, yeah, you're right. Jamar Chase is the obvious choice in my mind as the number one pick overall. I would select him at my one.
And the second overall pick, I'm going based on our draft. So the second overall pick was Tyreek Hill. He had 214 points. Oh, disappointment for sure for being that second overall pick. Who do you think should be the second overall?
Yeah, Tyreek Hill got hurt because of his in and out, inconsistent he was, and Hill struggled because of the quarterback play. But if they get that fixed, there's no doubt that he's a great player, but I don't think he's deserving of that number two pick. Number two pick for me, I'm going Saquon Barkley. I think being on the Eagles offense, that offensive line, just that offense, explosiveness, he puts up big numbers for you, and I think he's number two.
Yeah, no doubt about that. Saquon had 356 points this year. He finished as RB1. He got over 2,000 yards rushing. He might go for the record in Week 18. He scored 33 points 4 times, and he scored 46 points. He averaged 22 a game. He was just an absolute monster this year for your team. All right, the third overall pick, that was CeeDee Lamb in our league. He scored 264 points. He got hurt the last week. Who do you think should be the third overall pick?
For me, I'm going to go with the running back position again. I'm going to go with Jahmyr Gibbs. I think he's proven that even if he shares time with Montgomery, that he can still put up solid fantasy numbers. If he gets that solo back position, he's really going to explode.
Yeah.
So he's going to be my number 3 pick.
Yeah, I 100% agree. Jahmyr Gibbs had 317 points. He was such a reliable back. I mean, he had the safest floor. His worst game was 10 points. He had 16 touchdowns this year, 1,200 yards in the playoffs. He was scoring about 25 or more a game. So he really helped you in the playoff time, the crunch time. All right, so the 4th overall pick, you had the 4th overall pick in our league. You went Breece Hall. He scored 224 points. Kind of a disappointment, a letdown from Breece Hall for you.
Yeah, I really was anticipating on him having a big year this year. A lot of receptions, dump off passes to him is kind of what I thought coming into the season. Running, he was a little banged up. He wasn't getting as many carries as he should have or, should have got, basically, is what I'm trying to say. Is I think that he's a good running back, but he's not deserving of that 4. And if I was to pick, my number 4 is going to be Justin Jefferson. He's proved that whoever the quarterback is, that he's going to put up solid numbers for you. I think he's quarterback proof. No matter who's back there, they always try to work the ball his way and give him his touches. So he's going to be my number 4.
Yeah, that's not a bad one at all. For 4, for me, I'm actually going Bijan Robinson here. He was my hero for the fantasy year. He was RB3 on the year, 13 touchdowns, and almost 1,300 yards. And since week 6, he averaged 21 points per game. He kind of had a slow start, but after week 6, he turned it up a notch, and he helped my team greatly. He was my team MVP. So
Right.
So for the 5th overall, the original pick was Jamar Chase. We already talked about he should have went number 1. But who you have at 5th overall?
My number 5 is going to be Bijan Robinson. I just think, like you said, he demands so many touches. He gets to run the ball. He catches balls, and that Atlanta offense is moving the ball with Penix, I think, behind quarterback next year. I think they're going to be solid and have a great team, and I think he's going to be the recipient of having a great, solid year.
He put up good games with Penix as the quarterback, so that's encouraging for next year. My 5th overall, I'm going Justin Jefferson here. We're flip-flopping there. Maybe my favorite player in the league right now. He finished as receiver 2. Like you said, there was question marks about Sam Darnold. Could he really give Jefferson a chance to go off again? And Jefferson did, and Darnold had a pretty damn good year. Jefferson averaged 19 points per game. He only had 2 bad weeks, but you'll take that from JJ.
Yep.
All right, so the 6th overall was Amon-Ra St. Brown. He scored 283 points. Really good season, but there's a guy that I think we should replace him with.
So I'm keeping that same guy in that same spot. Amon-Ra St. Brown is just a quality receiver. He puts up solid numbers for you. You just put him in your lineup and you forget about him there because he puts up great numbers for you. I'm going to keep him there.
Okay. Well, I'm going to change it. I'm going Derrick Henry here. He scored 307 points on the year. Everybody was nervous about his age, or maybe Lamar will take away his touchdowns. He balled out. He averaged about 19 a game. He had 1,783 yards and 16 total touchdowns. So he looked like the Derrick Henry of old this year with the Ravens offense.
Exactly.
All right, 7th overall. This was my pick. I went Bijan Robinson. We agreed he should have went earlier. Who you have here?
That worked out. Yeah, that worked out good for you. I'm going with Derrick Henry. Like you mentioned, I mean, that Baltimore offense is built to go around him. He seemed to move this team. He seemed to move this offense. They're always around in the red zone. He's always going to get those carries in there. He's always going to get touchdown carries for you. I mean, without a doubt, he's worth that pick at number 7. I like him there.
All right, 7 for me. I'm going Josh Jacobs. He scored 284 points. You know, there was some talks preseason that they might be a running back by Kame, but he took over. I mean, he was the lead back by far. He had 1,285 yards and 15 total touchdowns, and he was great down the stretch from week 11 to 16. He averaged 20 a game for you. So I got to go Josh Jacobs there at 7. All right, the 8th overall pick was Garrett Wilson, 244 points. Pretty good year, but I think there's a guy that we should have over him here. Who do you have?
So this is a hard position right here in the draft of who you want to go with and who you like. I'm going to go with Jonathan Taylor. Surprise, surprise. This guy puts up big numbers. Last couple of weeks there, he's put up humongous numbers for you. That's who I'm going to go with. I like the running back position because so many injuries throughout the season. If you have a couple running backs that are solid in your lineup, I think this is where you need these guys.
I like that. All right. For me, I'm going to Monroe St. Brown here. 283 points. He was receiver 3. He averaged about 19 points a game. He had 109 catches, 1,186 yards, and 12 touchdowns. He had great games of 38 and 37. He was as good as what I expected him to be this year. So got to give Monroe the nod there. So 9th overall was A.J. Brown. A.J. missed a couple games due to injury. He scored 216 points. Who would you have at 9?
My number 9 is a receiver. It's going to be Nico Collins. I just think that he's a guy that when he's out there and playing, he's a big receiver. C.J. Stroud looks his way, and at the beginning of the year, he was the number 1 receiver overall. He had a hamstring issue. It's kind of sidelined him for a few games. He got back in there, and as soon as they put him in there, they went right back to him. Yeah. I think he's the number 1 receiver on this team.
Yeah, that's a good one. My guy, I'm going Devon Achane. He scored 281 points. Devon had some question marks because last year, I mean, he was great as a rookie, but he got hurt. He'd miss a bunch of games. So people were like, is he going to get hurt again? But he didn't. He only missed like half a game. He was a PPR machine. He led the Dolphins in catches. I think that is wild. Averaged about 5 catches a game. And he came up huge in the semifinals with a 31-point game. I mean, you got to give him the nod for how well he performed this year.
Yep.
All right.
I agree with that.
10th overall was Saquon Barkley. We all agree he should have went higher than 10. Who you have at 10?
My 10 is Devon Achane from the Miami Dolphins. Like you said, I think Mostert and all these other running backs are definitely out of the way now. This is his backfield. He catches all those dump-off passes. I mean, they look his way, probably 6 targets a game, 6 to 7 targets. That's great in a PPR league. And he's proved that he can be a good, solid running back for you. He puts up good numbers. So he's definitely that 10 for me.
Gotcha. My guy is probably the biggest surprise of the year. I'm going Brian Thomas Jr. 266 points. I mean, everybody was talking about Marvin Harrison doing good. Malik Neighbors doing good. Nobody really talked about Brian Thomas Jr. Like, he was going late in your drafts. But he had a great year. 80 catches, 1,100 yards, and 10 touchdowns. In the playoffs, he averaged 27 a game. He probably won you guys a championship. He has a bright future. So I'm going Brian Thomas Jr. at 10.
That's a good pick.
All right. So the 11th overall was Jahmyr Gibbs, 291 points. Who do you think should be the 11th overall pick?
My 11, I'm gonna go with the other guy you just mentioned, Malik Neighbors. I think that they're gonna get a better quarterback in there, and he's proven he's another guy. Whoever the quarterback is, they can still get him the ball. They're gonna force feed him the ball, and I think he's gonna have a great year.
Yeah. My guy, I'm going Kyren Williams. He scored 275 points, over 1,300 yards, and 16 total touchdowns. Averaged about 17 a game. He performed about how I predicted him to be this season. He was a second-round pick. I think he stays around that second-round range. All right, so the 12th overall was Patrick Mahomes with 333 points. Who do you think it should have been?
Right. I'm going to go with Kyren Williams. I understand picking quarterbacks, but you can see that these quarterbacks, you can find some guy to come in and put up decent numbers.
Right.
So I'm going to go with Kyron Williams. Start of the year, this guy really was out on the field every play. This guy barely ever gave the ball up to anybody else. He just commands so many touches, and he had a great year. I mean, this guy is a top 5 running back.
Yeah.
So I want to get him on that wraparound early in the second round, because I think most drafts last year he was on the later side of the second round and maybe the beginning of the third round. So he was a steal for you, I think.
Yeah. For 12th, I'm going Alvin Kamara. 265 points this year. A really bounce back year for AK. Overperformed this year. First couple of months, people forget Alvin Kamara was RB1. He missed the last 2 weeks of the fantasy playoffs, so I can't put him any higher because of that. The crunch time when you really need him, he got hurt. He had 1,500 total yards and 8 touchdowns for Kamara, so I think that's a good place for him because of how well he was doing beginning of the year. All right, the 13th overall was Derrick Henry, 307 points. Who should be now?
Yeah, I mean, he really outperformed where he was drafted. Yep. That's for sure. If you picked him up, he might have rushed you right into the championship games for you. He was a great player at that position. I'm really struggling with this position right here. I almost want to go tight end, but I'm going to go with I think Bucky Irvin. I'm going to go with him from Tampa Bay. This guy, I think, is now going to be the number 1 on this team, and he's put up great numbers for you. I think he's deserving of that spot. He's a guy I'm willing to reach for because I'm really thinking that he's that good.
Yeah, no, he's really freaking good. All right, for me, I'm going CeeDee Lamb here. 264 points. Kind of disappointing considering he was the 2nd overall pick. He was a top 3 pick in every league, but not as bad as Tyreek Hill was this year. Receiver 5, 17 points per game, 101 catches, 1,100 yards, and 6 tutties. Once they started figuring out Cooper Rush, how to run the offense through him, then we saw CeeDee Lamb perform. So I got CD at 13th. All right, now the 14th overall, my second round pick, and that was Justin Jefferson. No way he should have slid to 14 for me, but who do you think it should have been?
You talked about Jefferson as slipping because of his quarterback play. Here's where I'm going to put in CeeDee Lamb as his quarterback play. Dak kind of had a bad year. We thought highly that he was going to have an outstanding year. And he's another receiver that I think can put up numbers for you, even who's behind at the quarterback position. I think CeeDee Lamb is worth it. He might even be higher up, but I got to put him there.
Yeah, that's a good pick for sure. All right, so I'm going James Cook here. He had 257 points. James was a surprise. He was like a late 3rd, 4th round pick. I have him at 14th overall. He finished as RB9, almost 1,000 yards, rushing 15 touchdowns. He scored a lot of touchdowns this year, 17 points per game. Great year for James Cook. All right, 15th overall was Jonathan Taylor with 220 points. Who do you think it should have been?
To me, right here, I'm comfortable with this is where Tyreek Hill's going to slide in. I think he's with the slow start he had this year with Tua kind of struggling and that. I think Tyreek Hill's one of those explosive receivers, and he's one of those risk-reward type guys. I want to risk at putting him in the middle at the second round. I want Tyreek Hill there.
Okay. For me, I'm going Malik Neighbors here. 256 points. I was wrong about Neighbors. I thought Daniel Jones would impact him in a negative way, but he outperformed my expectations. He only missed 2 games, and he was still receiver 6. Week 17, most people's championship round, he had 7 catches for 171 yards and 2 touchdowns. Maybe won you the championship. He has a bright future. Hopefully, they get him a good quarterback.
Yeah, they definitely need to get a quarterback.
All right, 16th overall. Who you going here?
This is a toss-up for me too. I'm going to go with Chase Brown. He was a stud this year, and I think they're going to commit to him and make him their number one running back. Being on Cincinnati's offense, they're an explosive offense, move the ball down, and he puts up big numbers.
Yeah, I have him as well. 256 points. He was a big surprise. I actually drafted him in the 12th round this year, and he finished as RB10. He averaged about 16 points per game, 990 yards, and 11 touchdowns. This Bengals offense was unreal this year, and we should expect them to be pretty dang good next year, too. So I think Chase Brown is the right pick here. All right, 17th overall. This was your second round pick. You went Kyron Williams, who was pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
Who would you put here now?
This guy is starting to catch on, and I think he's going to have a great year next year. I'm going JSN, Jackson Smith Njigba. I think he's going to have a great year. He's a PPR machine. He catches a lot of receptions for you. Mm-hmm. I think I'm going to put him at the back end of the second round.
I like that one. All right, for me, I'm going James Conner, 254 points. Such a solid player. I mean, he doesn't get the credit he deserves. RB11 on the year, over 1,100 yards and 9 touchdowns. Didn't miss a game this year. So you got to respect James Conner for putting up those numbers. Our 18th overall was Puka Nacua, 206 points. He missed 4 games, I believe. So that's why his points wasn't as high, but he was a great player. Who would you pick for 18?
I'm keeping Puka Nacua there.
I like that.
I think he's kind of. I was leaning towards. I like Puka Nacua. I think he's taken over that number one receiver spot. I'm going to keep him right there.
Absolutely. All right. For me, I'm putting Scary Terry here. Terry McLaurin. He had 248 points. He finally has a good quarterback, and you saw him really blossom this year. He had 74 catches, 1,034 yards, and 12 touchdowns. I don't think Terry McLaurin has 12 touchdowns in his career except for this year. So you got great value with Terry. So that's why I'm putting him at 18 here. All right, 19th overall, maybe one of the biggest busts, was Marvin Harrison Jr. with 180 points. Who would you pick here instead?
I'm going with Old Faithful, Mr. 1,000 Yards, Mike Evans. This guy, I was kind of somewhat counting him out, but this guy this year, if he didn't have that injury, he could have been in the top 5 as a receiver.
Yeah.
He keeps putting up great numbers, big numbers, and I want him at the bottom of the second round.
I like that one. For me, I'm going Jackson Smith and Jigba, 248 points. JSN overperformed this year. Everybody drafted towards the later rounds. He had receiver 7. He had 96 catches, 1,100 yards. Week 9, he actually popped off for a 37-point week. I think he became Gino's number 1 guy this year. So I got to put JSN here. So the 20th overall pick, that was Mike Evans, 222 points. Who would you pick here instead?
Okay, so here we are at this wraparound. Mm-hmm. So I'm going to go tight end. I'm going with Brock Bowers because I want to have that number 1 tight end who I think he's going to be next year.
Yeah.
So I want to pick him, as that wraparound. That way I can come around and pick someone else. But I want to have that solid tight end.
Mm-hmm. I like that a lot because I also have Brock Bowers here. He was such a beast this year, guys. He was averaging 15 points per game. He had 108 catches, the most ever by a rookie, by the way. 1,144 yards and 4 touchdowns. I think he's going to be the first tight end picked in years.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he was awesome as a rookie. So the 21st overall pick was originally Isaiah Pacheco. He got banged up. He missed a lot of time. He scored 56 points this year. Who would you put here instead of Pacheco?
So I'm going to go with T. Higgins. I'm going to get another receiver to come wrap around. I mean, this guy could be clearly a number one receiver on any other team.
Right.
He's behind Jamar Chase, but he can still put up solid numbers for you. He's looking like he's probably going to play somewhere else. So this is a guy I want to have on my team.
Yeah. For me, I'm going Garrett Wilson. 244 points. A little disappointing year for Garrett considering he went in the first round, but still a great player. He finished as receiver 9. He averaged 15 points per game. He had some high scoring games with 30 and 29, and he had that awesome catch against the Texans, if you remember that. So I'm going Garrett Wilson here with the 21st overall pick. 22nd overall was another bust. Travis Etienne.
Mm-hmm.
He scored a whopping 122 points this year. Who do you pick instead of him?
So that's going to be another running back. I'm going to go with Josh Jacobs. He kind of slips down in my rankings, but I love the production that he puts up for you. He's always putting up solid numbers. I'm comfortable with getting him on the third round, the first of the third round. If you can get him there, what a great pick.
Mm-hmm. For me, I'm going running back, but different running back. I'm going Chuba Hubbard, who's another surprise. 244 points. He might not got drafted in your league, and he ended up as RB12. That was awesome value. Getting him off the waiver wire. He had 1,200 yards and 11 touchdowns, and he had 6 games over 20 points. For a guy that you possibly just picked off waivers, you got a great return in Chuba, so I'm picking him there. So 23rd was Alvin Kamara. He's long gone in our new draft. Who would you pick here instead?
James Cook. Going with James Cook. He looked actually really good this year.
Mm-hmm.
He put up solid numbers for you in that Buffalo's offense. He's going to have opportunities. He can catch the ball out of the backfield. Plus, Buffalo loves moving the ball down the field, and he gets a lot of red zone carries. He can fall in the end zone a few times for you, so I like him there.
Yeah, that's a good one. All right, for me, I'm going Joe Mixon. 236 points. He was RB13, 18 points per game. Joe was pretty great until week 15. After that, he kind of sucked. He kind of sold for your playoff run. So that's why I have him at 23rd. He would be higher because he was pretty great beginning of the year. He was a top 3 running back for most of the year. Then he kind of fell off. All right, so 24th was Devontae Adams. You picked Devontae Adams here. He scored 220 points. Who would you pick here instead?
He's right around that spot still, I think, but I'm going to go with Terry McLaurin. I think his quarterback position play is better with Jaden Daniels at Washington. I think him and Terry McLaurin are going to keep this connection going, and I think he's worthy of being there.
Yeah, I like that. For me, I'm going Jonathan Taylor here. He was pretty reliable most of the year. Playoffs, he was pretty freaking good. I mean, he scored 20 points in the 3 weeks in the playoffs. He was really good. I'm placing Jonathan Taylor at the 24th overall pick. So 25th overall was Jalen Hurts, 354 points. Who do you put here instead of Jalen Hurts?
You might laugh at me, but this guy's a PPR machine. Lad McConkey. I think he's going to have a solid year next year with Herbert still there. Nothing's really going to change in this offense. Those two are going to keep connecting this whole season, and I think he's worthy of being in that spot.
Gotcha. I like that pick. For me, I'm going a quarterback here. The first quarterback. I'm going Lamar Jackson, 455 points. Usually leagues draft a quarterback in the 3rd round, so that's why I feel comfortable picking Lamar here. The best fantasy quarterback this year. He averaged 25 a game. He had 4,800 yards on the year and 43 touchdowns this year. Maybe he's the NFL MVP again this year. So you got to put Lamar here. That's the first quarterback taken. All right, 26 overall.
Yeah, you're right at the getting into this QB spot now. Some of the top 4 guys I think are worthy of guys to pick in the 3rd round. I think it's excellent value for you. I'm going to go with Josh Allen again. I think you got to pick this guy. This guy wills his team to win no matter who he has receiving. They don't really have a clear-cut number 1, although they got Amari Cooper. Maybe that connection's better next year. But whoever's back there, Josh Allen's going to throw a touchdown or he's going to run it in.
Right.
So that's what I love about him is him rushing the ball and rushing touchdowns.
Yeah, 26 overall. It was Josh Allen originally. I'm staying with Josh Allen again. I mean, QB2, he was great. I think this is the best we've seen Josh Allen play in his NFL career. 4,000 yards, 40 touchdowns, and he averaged about 24 games. So great numbers from Josh Allen. So this was my pick. I'm with Devon Achane with the 27th overall pick. Who are you putting here now?
I'm going with Lamar Jackson. I'm going to scoop up these 2 top-tier quarterbacks and have them on my team. Lamar Jackson's still putting up MVP numbers. He's worthy of that spot right there.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm going Aaron Jones here. It was another kind of shocking pick. These running backs that switched teams this year were all really good.
They have done well. Yeah.
They did well. Scored 232 points. He was RB 14 on the year, 1,000-yard rusher, and 7 touchdowns. Very reliable this year from Aaron Jones. So that's why I have him there. So 28th overall was Joe Mixon. 236 points. Who are you putting here now instead?
I'm keeping Joe Mixon there. Okay. I think he had a decent year or a good year for the Houston Texans, and I think he's still a quality RB2 that you're going to get in that 3rd round. I like that spot there. I would like to have him as an RB2.
Yeah, no doubt. I'm going George Kittle here, who's tight end 2. 76 catches, 1,000 yards, and 8 touchdowns, giving the slight edge to Kittle over McBride because McBride only scored 1 touchdown this year, which was kind of crazy, and you love touchdowns from tight ends. So Kittle here, I think, as he finishes tight end 2, I'm putting him here. So 29th overall was James Cook, 257 points. Who are you putting here now?
You know, I'm looking at the board, and this guy had a really great year. If you can get him to stay healthy, he's showed that he can be a worthy pick. Going J.K. Dobbins.
Yeah.
I think if he can stay healthy on that offense, and he proved that he was a good running back, I always want to have a good RB2. In the 3rd round's about where I want to be at. I like J.K. Dobbins. He's worth the risk.
That's a really good pick. I like that a lot. My guy, I'm going Bucky Irving here. Another rookie. I mean, these rookies were fantastic this year. There's so many top rookies that were on the top of fantasy. When Bucky really got his chance to shine, that was week 6. He went off. He finished his RB 14 after not even playing that much for 5 weeks. So I got Bucky here with the 29th. 30th overall, another absolute bust. We got Michael Pittman here with 153 points. Who would you replace him with?
Aaron Jones.
Yeah.
Aaron Jones at the end of the 3rd round is a steal, I think. He's been great this year. He's worthy of that end of the 3rd round. I like him there.
Yeah, I like that one. For me, I'm going to Ladd McConkey. 224 points. The slot god, the new Cooper Kupp. Receiver 12. 15 points per game, 77 catches, 1,000 yards, 7 touchdowns. He has a bright future for him in that Chargers offense. So I think he's the absolute right pick. He should be a 3rd round pick. So that's why I have him here. So yeah, that was fun.
That was fun. I mean, it was really diving in, trying to figure out, and there's been a lot of change up on a lot of these players. A lot of these guys jumped up huge. So it was fun.
And a lot of guys fell.
A lot of guys fell, yeah, for sure.
So, all right, thank you guys so much for watching. Please comment down how your team did, your best pick, your worst pick. Love to hear from you guys. And if you enjoyed the video, please give it a like and subscribe if you're new. We'll see you next time. Peace.